Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, and wherever in the world you may be. My name is Matt Wynn, your podcast host and resident secure identities nerd. Welcome to the season finale of HID Connects. Now, over the course of this season, we've explored a wide range of topics with a wide range of experts. And while creating the past 7 episodes has been fun, I'm going to be honest, folks, I am very relieved to allow someone else to take the reins today. Now, of course, I wouldn't just trust this job to anyone, which is why I'm super excited to close out season 3 with a very special someone, our fearless leader, aka our executive vice president and head of HID, Bjorn Lidefelt. Bjorn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, folks, so we're going to take a little bit of a different approach today. So instead of focusing on one topic, we're putting Bjorn in the hot seat in a true Ask Me Anything format. So to do this, we have crowdsourced questions from social media and from a variety of experts in our industry. So my job today is pretty easy. All I have to do is ask the questions that you have provided, and we'll allow Bjorn to provide his insights and reflections. So Bjorn, are you ready?
I think I am.
Do you still want to do this?
Is there a choice?
No.
All right,
let's the games begin then. All right, so Bjorn, let's just start with an introduction. People may know of you, but we'd like to learn more about you. So generally speaking, tell us about yourself and maybe a bit on your career path.
All right, Matt. So I am born into this industry. I started at Assa Abloy almost 20 years ago now, straight out of college. Engineer by education. I shouldn't have been. I didn't do very well, but it ended me a job in Assa Abloy. And that's been fantastic. And I've not been bored once in the last 20 years. There's always something to do. I've actually left Sweden when I was fairly young, so while Swedish by birth, and I grew up there, I have spent more time outside of Sweden in the last 25, 30 years than I have in. And as a large company that Assa Abloy is, I've been really fortunate to have roles in different types of capacity, functional roles, sales and marketing related. I've run businesses from an early age, been to Asia for 8 years. Now I'm here at HID in the US. So, I look back at it very happily married to this group. So that's on the professional side. I am married. 2 kids, 2 sons, 10 and 12. So it's all sports and all family at the moment. Try to get the occasional workout in, but a lot of our time right now goes towards just spending time with them as much as I can outside of work.
Very nice. And you have a dog as well, right?
I do. Labradoodle, Texas.
His name is Texas. I love that.
She was named before we got her. It was one of the conditions or one of the bribes that I offered my kids to move from Sweden when we moved here. So, but we are very happy. I will never have a life without a dog again.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Texas, let's get you warmed up with some this or that questions. All right. So now that you've lived in Austin, tacos or barbecue?
Barbecue.
Really?
Yes.
I disagree. When it comes to airplanes, aisle or window?
100% window.
I'm an aisle guy. We are 0 for 2 today. All right, so soccer or American football?
I actually have fallen in love with American football. I didn't know much of it before I got here, a little bit, but no, it's a great game. It's got so many dimensions to it that I'm just sold on it. But I like soccer a lot too, but definitely an American football if I had to pick one.
The Europeans are freaking out right now. Left or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
You're right-handed, okay. Beach or mountains?
I would pick mountains, winter mountains over beach.
Okay.
I burn very easily, so the first day is pleasant. The last 4 is just pink and burn, and I get restless at about 20 minutes on a beach. So it's alpine skiing if I could choose.
Okay, give you something to do. And last one, what's your favorite podcast?
So I listen to, no, I'm kidding. HID Connects, Matt, you know it.
Very good, very good. I was going to say, this is the shortest podcast ever if that was not the answer. So, all right, we've got you warmed up. Are you feeling like you're in the zone now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right, let's do it. All right, so again, folks, we've crowdsourced questions from across social media and then some industry experts and peers of ours. So we'll just kind of go in and literally random order. So we'll keep you on your toes. So the first one came to us via LinkedIn. This is from Todd Broderick at ALC Consulting, and he asked, what role does culture play as you continue to build the team moving forward? And what are some keystone characteristics that new HID employees should possess to be successful here?
So culture is something I've learned how to appreciate, both from a multicultural perspective, having traveled, but perhaps more so when I took over HID, which is a lot larger than organization I've driven in the past. You can't just go out and meet your team; they're all sitting in front of you. So culture becomes much more of a carrier in larger organization that I was used to in smaller organizations. So it's very important. What I think, if I look at ASSA ABLOY or HID, the curiosity, the spirit of constant change and being able to cope with that is critical. And combined with that, being able to go in under those circumstances, carve out some clear path, what to do, and own that and deliver that. That's definitely a theme that I've seen across the group with very successful people. Tied to that, also core value of the ASSA ABLOY group is innovation. We are very product driven in what we do, so innovation in product is important, but equally in how we do things. So when you grow at the pace we grow, when you acquire companies at the pace we acquire companies, there's going to be always a constant degree of change, and that means you have to innovate what you do, you have to innovate yourself. Oftentimes, being a leader in an industry, you have to innovate how the market works. So those are a couple. Coming back a little bit to culture, what I always ask people that I interview, or what I try to look for, is really that last piece of personal information. Are they genuinely a nice person? And I think part of the success of ASSA ABLOY and of HID is really having a breadth of perspectives, opinions, and people who are genuinely nice and people who understand that that's how it has to be for the company to be successful. They have a tendency to be really successful here.
Very nice. And it truly is a nice place to work. So it goes hand in hand.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. All right. Good starting point. Let's talk a little bit about industry trends, shall we? So this question's from Lee Odess, and he asks, as access control becomes increasingly software defined and mobile first, how do you see the relationship between physical security hardware, software, and digital ID evolving over the next 5 years? What keeps you up at night about this?
So historically, ASSA ABLOY is a hardware-driven organization, physical product organization. What keeps me up at night is how fast will that change, and how do we keep up with that change? It doesn't actually keep me up at night. I'm very confident in the direction we're taking there. But to Lee's question, I think that, and it has been changing for the last 20 years as well. We started mobile 12 years ago. It's still only now taking off, same with many other things. But I do really see software and the value that software brings to the security industry is changing. And perhaps, arguably it's changing faster now than it has been. The value that you're able to create by connecting systems to each other, getting information from video, from access control, from identities, corporate identity, employee registers, and so on. I'm really starting to see companies being able to tie those together and harness the power of that data and present it back to end users as data and as insights. And I think that is really a game changer for our industry, where you go from supplying products and systems to supplying insights and potential recommendation of actions. And if you look at players that have historically been strong, they've been strong in delivering robust systems. I see new companies coming in, being able to tie those systems together into a different set of values, solving a different set of products. So I think that's a strong trend, and I think that trend's going to bring a lot of change to the industry. Not just you need to understand software and be able to monetize it, but also you need to be able to focus on a vertical, solving a specific problem. You can't carry along everything that you used to do. So definitely a trend that we continue to see here in the next few years.
Good. One size fits all is no longer the case.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so we got a lot of questions on this trend, mega trend, and that's all things AI. So we try to consolidate some of them a little bit just for the sake of efficiency. But let's start off, general question. This is from Cherie Fazell at Apple. And she asks, Bjorn, what emerging trends in AI do you foresee having the most significant impact on physical access control across the industry verticals that you serve?
I would tie that question back to what we just spoke about. Okay. I think once you start to get large sets of data, you can start to understand behaviors beyond a single event, like I tapped to enter a door, or there was a person showed up on a video feed. that will require AI, both in the instance of analyzing the video content, so video analytics, but also in terms of tying those together and potentially recommending an action from it. So if there is one trend that I think could truly transform the security industry is the AI application of all these feeds and inputs, the data, and even from Apple, the additional stuff that they have on the phone, the technology in the phone will allow you to also do other things that they haven't previously been able to do. Combining that, recommending insights, even recommending actions is going to be a game changer, and I think AI plays an important role in that.
Very exciting. On the AI topic, this question came to us via LinkedIn from Andrew Vanderberg, and he asks, HID has made significant strides in digital identity and access management. How do you see the role of AI evolving in your product portfolio over the next 5 years? So let's bring it closer to home.
Yeah. So what we have so far been focusing our AI efforts on a product level is, on the one hand side, using data and analyzing that through AI to, for example, drive precision in real-time location services. So in a hospital environment, you want to match equipment with key personnel, doctors, nurses, to perform an operation. They're not always all in the same place, or they're spread out the hospital. Sometimes they even need super solid precision to get there. And with today's technology, if you didn't use AI analytics to drive that, it's in a room or in a part of a hospital. We're able to use AI to drive precision far beyond what we've seen in the past. So, triangulating location points to drive accuracy. In the biometric space, AI technology goes into generating and matching biometric profiles to each other. So, fingerprint, facial recognition is very much dependent on AI to drive that accuracy. So those are a couple of real use cases that we work on today. But I imagine, back to what I talked about, the industry and the AI insights and things, from a product perspective, we will also be able to use AI for that. Just the enormous amount of data we harvest throughout our products, we should be able to present not to the end user, but allow others to present to the end user a higher degree of insights from the data we capture.
Very good. So on that notion of insights, that also talks into account privacy, right? So Cherie had a follow-up question to her initial AI point of view, and that is, what consideration should be taken into account to ensure that AI solutions enhance safety and security and that risks are mitigated?
This is one of the biggest challenges that I think we're facing with AI. One thing is to generate a 3-day itinerary for a Paris trip. You may get to the wrong place, but
Sure.
But if you apply it to personal information, to security decisions or recommendations, it's a very different game. And we all know that AI is not perfect. It's going to be biased. It's going to give the wrong recommendations. From an HID perspective, we are very careful in how we work with this. There's very little room for playing around with this in a real-time perspective. So our approach is conservative when it comes to those kind of functionalities, and really making sure that we follow up with all aspects of security, safety, personal information, the ethical behavior of AI. So from that perspective, the industry in general, HID included, is taking a more conservative approach to AI. And that's something we're going to have to live with. It's still it's an old technology, but these applications needs to be really looked at and understood. And
understood responsibly.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. Okay, great. So let's continue on kind of future tech trends. And this question is from Bobby Lewis Saint out of Meta. And he asked, with the advancements in computer power, how does HID feel about quantum computing? Is there any concern about the ability to crack encryption with quantum computing capabilities?
The computer power that you can see coming with quantum computing is enormous. And of course, that changes everything we know about the ability to generate versions that would potentially lead to breaking algorithms or cracking codes and so on. We don't exactly know when that type of computer power will be commercially or readily available. And I think there'll be some time before we see it. I also don't think that applying it to crack a code for an access card is going to be the first application used. All that being said, of course, it's a concern. I mean, much of what we do is based on secure algorithms and encryptions. The good news is that in parallel to the development of computer power is also tools and processes and so on, making them quantum secure. As an example, NIST released recently quantum secure algorithms that will allow you to basically create encryption that is quantum secure as per them. And HID has already, I mean, we're looking at this, we have functional prototypes in labs and so on. We will develop and launch it first in our PKI space, so they will be quantum secure. And there's a plan to roll this out across the new credential technologies that we have. But it's hard to say at this point. We'll just have to keep up with technology. But look back a year or two ago, there weren't these algorithms, or at least not readily available or recommended by a third-party organization. So I think there's really there's a lot of promising development also to protect the future algorithms from that kind of computer power.
Absolutely, threat landscape is always evolving. Let's shift gears a little bit. Bobby had another question for you, and that is, how does HID feel about Peacock and Aero? And for listeners, Peacock is PKOC, not the bird or the streaming service. But how does HID feel about Peacock and Aero? And what's our position on the direction of these types of more open architecture solutions?
So we're always excited to help the end user to a better place. In fact, I mean, specifically to Aero, we are excited to use this. We look at it as a complementary encryption complementary credential to what we have from HID, which is CEOs today. We're in fact very involved in the CSA to improve, develop, and specify these standards, and we will continue to do so. I'm excited about interoperability. I think it solves many problems, but it also has to be done in a responsible way. And mobile is one use case. There's many others. There's many applications that we use our credentials for today that, more open protocols or standards does not fully take into consideration. We also have to be mindful that there's so many options here, and for interoperability to truly work, you have to. You can't have 52 open standards
Sure.
that are not compatible. So it's also a matter of rallying around or understanding. One, which is it that's going to be the one? And two, how do we drive adoption of that, while at the same time making sure that there is room to differentiate for companies to keep that end-to-end responsibility for security. There's lots of those aspects too. But we're excited about it. We are investing in it. We are working with those standard groups, CSA in particular, to drive those standards forward.
Good. It's an important needle to thread for sure. Okay, so let's talk mobile. And this is coming from King Lamb at Apple. As mobile credentials in Wallet gain traction and adoption rates increase among enterprise and end users, does HID have a plan to leverage this technology to address the privacy and regulatory challenges that many end users encounter in the biometric space?
So I think the question here really talks about the sensitivity of biometrics data, and King is absolutely correct. I mean, that is probably one of the most sensitive data points that we have. Fingerprint is one thing when it comes to face. It's literally our identity. What we are looking at is, and we're very supportive of democratizing or decentralizing ownership of that data. I am not excited about these mega databases owned by large corporations or employee or company that has all the information about you. And in fact, there are also emerging standards, regulations across the world that says that the user and the owner of that biometric data needs to also be in full control of it. What that means is that we have to find ways to empower the user to have control over it. So that data, as King is kind of suggesting, needs to then sit on a phone, or it needs to sit on a physical token or card that the end user has full control over. So that instead of matching your face to a database, you match your face to a credential that you carry on a card, and somebody's put trust in that card and not trust in the ownership of the biometric template itself. Anyway, we are very, very much seeing that trend. And I believe that for biometrics to take off and work properly, also 10, 15 years from now, that privacy concern needs to be solved. And giving the user itself, the owner of the biometric data, the control over it is going to be the critical thing. And there's a lot of work that we're doing specifically in our biometric business to be able to supply that.
Excellent. More to come.
Yep.
All right. Completely different question, completely different topic. And this is from Pablo Rapetti out of RSL. Wants to know, given the number of innovative solutions driven by partners of HID all over the world, shout out to our partners, of course, is there any platform for business matching within the partners of HID?
So I think this question comes specifically from a PAX customer. I think they are doing a great job in connecting partners with each other. There's a couple of things that I would call out here. We have a partnership program. Joining that gives you access to tools and ways of working around the partnership. It doesn't necessarily mean a one-way conversation with HID, but across. An example is our mobile annual event that we have, Origin, which takes place here in Austin. I think it's early next year, and it was also earlier this year, where we bring partners together, really with the purpose to talk about trends in the industry, how we best work together to build out this new space. Again, HID's position specifically in access control is to be enabler to partners so that they can take our products and services and link it together and go to an end user and create value and solve their problems. We are an enabler. We are not going to solve that problem alone. We need partnerships. And there's a lot to learn within that partnership community.
Very nice. All right. So speaking of partners, we got this question from Instagram. P.S. If you're not following us on Instagram, please do. Lots of good content there. And this is from Solaris Info System. The question is, how can one achieve growth in the ID card industry?
All right. So if you look at the ID card industry, I'm going to take physical cards as an example. There's actually good underlying growth when it comes to new markets. You have emerging markets, Africa, parts of Asia, that traditionally have not had ID cards to the same level we've had in the Western world. So despite the fact that you may see, a replacement of ID cards to a lesser extent, but by mobile devices and so on, that's really offset by the growth of ID card deployments in these emerging markets. You see new use cases for ID cards all the time. Multiple types of ID, voter registration cards, vehicle registration cards. So there's all kinds of new ID cards. So just the market in itself will continue to grow. I think over time, like further out, of course, there'll be a trend towards mobile, carrying mobile identities. But I still think there's a long runway for physical cards to exist. The other growth opportunity that I see is really the value that you get out of the card. One is that you can introduce different designs of the cards, create additional value. Oftentimes on the ID side, we talk about security features, holograms, things like that. So that in itself drives value. One of the biggest step changes in value of a card comes with introduction of new technology. So as you move from visual identity to adding a technology on the card, RFID technology, replacing mag stripe with a chip, substantially increases the value of the card, both in terms of what the end user experience, but also the ability to monetize that in the channel. And then last but not least, as you have additional technologies, the number of use cases for that card, physical access, logical access, driver's license can be used for other things. So, and with mobile, with the augmentation of physical IDs and mobile IDs, I think you see a wealth of added opportunities to drive more value out of the card and grow that market, also with a hybrid between physical and digital. So I think there's plenty of opportunities to drive growth.
More is more.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. This question is from Don Erickson at SIA, or the Security Industry Association, of which you're very heavily involved with. The question is, security technology providers often speak about their commitment to offering products that have strong cyber and privacy-enhancing protections by design. Obviously, these are very important practices that customers expect. Now, what are some core ethical use principles that are practices of HID when designing and using its products?
I think there are many aspects to the question,
Sure.
But if you think about ethical as in inclusive, across ASSA ABLOY, one of the activities that we do when we design products, not just at HID, is to look at the end user and understand how that they use it. And a lot of times there are going to be use examples, elderly, disabled, children, that all needs to be included in the design of the product. It could be the weight, the size, the length of a handle, being able to grab it with your arm instead of your hand. So that type of inclusive design is actually something we've really worked on. The other aspect of ethical, you could argue, it's ethical towards the planet and environment. And again, every product that ASSA ABLOY puts out there, we use something we call the Sustainability Compass, which maps out the footprint on the environment a product has. And it has to do with the type of material, the amount of material that goes into it, but also looking at the life cycle of that product and the impact that has, all with an ambition to reduce the footprint a product has on an environment. The last aspect, and tying it back a little bit to the earlier question around privacy and biometrics, there's definitely also important considerations to be taken whenever you touch personal data on products, whether it's a system or a device that captures information. And again, we have a lot of processes and touch points to make sure that those instances when there is personal data, either on our side, but more often on the customer side, that's included in the design and the intent of the product.
Security for the greater good.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, so moving on. Next question is from Italy, and this is from Riccardo Brambilla from Friends and Partners, and he wants to know, how does HID see the use of smart wearables for live music show access? Does HID think that this type of technology can enhance engagement to live music fans?
Absolutely. And Riccardo would probably agree. This helps elevate the experience in many different ways. I mean, first of all, many times in events, you don't want to be carrying physical tickets, or you don't want to be, maybe even carrying a digital device like a phone. So having a mobile device, a wearable that is, a pre-manufactured wearable, Samsung Watch, or even a custom wearable that you can make, that we make, would enhance just the overall access experience. But we can also tie other features to this. You can put payment applications tied to it. You can have loyalty type experience, know your customer type interactions throughout that. So I think there's many opportunities to do that. And the wearable plays an important role. Wearables, just generally speaking, when it comes to access control, so mobile access with watches, you see it in healthcare environment, they are becoming more and more popular as a choice of authentication or access. So
Very
I think
nice.
Definitely an opportunity there.
Excellent. Okay, so last crowdsourced question, and then we'll give you final thoughts. This is coming from Thomas Knockler at McKinsey, and the question is, kind of going back to what you're mentioning around sustainability, decarbonization increases the importance of tracking and enabling reduction of Scope 3 emissions, including component tracking, recycling, etc. How are you doing this at ASSA ABLOY and HID? How can your businesses help enable this?
Scope 3 emissions as part of the commitment to lowering the carbon footprint of a company is probably the biggest headache that companies that have committed to this face at the moment. It's very honorable that, and ASSA ABLOY has committed to this too. The life cycle of a product is critical as part of that Scope 3, because it's not just the impact you have of your building or the material you use, but the impact that product has on its life cycle. With the products that we have within HID, and specifically within the RFID tracking technology group, allows you to create an identity for that product. That product could be a rechargeable battery that has now a unique identity that can be identified, verified, and tracked through a system, allowing you to understand where it is, how it's done, if you can refurbish it, recycle, etc. And not just understanding physically where it is, but also give that a passport of lifetime footprint. So it applies to batteries, consumables. I think there's an act coming out in Europe looking at garments. So every garment needs to be tagged so you can understand the footprint our clothes have on the environment, which is actually much, much bigger than most realize. Where again, HID puts tracking devices into the laundry applications so that people can track throughout a life cycle. So we are very excited about the products that we have to help with this. Again, we are an enabler in this space. We look at this as we have the tools to create that ecosystem. We partner with companies, system integrators, end user companies that face the end user to take that into more of the life cycle stage of it. So you need to work with partners to do that, but we have a fantastic, powerful RFID product range, both with the tags and the readers to do this.
Very good.
I hope more pick up on that business.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds promising. Great. Okay, well, that wraps up the questions that we crowdsourced. So thank you, Bjorn, for sitting in the hot seat, and thank you, everyone, for submitting your questions. But Bjorn, because, HID Connects is your favorite podcast, you likely know that we end every episode with the burning question of the day. And generally speaking, you can answer it however you want. Today's burning question is, what do you think, Bjorn Lidefelt?
What do I think? I think there is more opportunities and positive out there than there is negative. I'm a glass half full individual, and I think during times where we're in, just generally speaking, with a lot of change in the world, a lot of uncertainty, it's important to remind ourselves about the good things. It's important to remind ourselves about the opportunities and celebrate the successes. That's what I think.
Very good way for us to end the season. So Bjorn, that's the end of season 3. So 1, how do you feel?
I look forward to season 4. I think it's exciting to see what's more to come here.
Okay, excellent. Because I was going to ask the question, are we renewed for season 4? And the answer is a resounding yes. So we'll see if we have you back. If you're always welcome to join us. So you heard it, folks. That's a wrap on season 3. So first and foremost, Bjorn, thank you. I know you're a very busy individual, so we appreciate your insights. And again, we'll welcome you back potentially on season 4. We'll see how it goes. And of course, as always, we truly appreciate everyone sending in their questions. And we wish we had time to get them all. But hey, that's what future episodes are for, right? As always, as we wrap up season 3, and even bigger, and I would say the biggest thanks to all of you for joining us for this episode and throughout the entire season. We truly do enjoy creating this podcast, and we hope that you equally enjoy listening. Now, we'll be back. You heard it. We're renewed. So we'll be back in the coming months where we'll continue to explore a whole new list of burning questions on hot industry topics. Speaking of which, to be the first to know when new episodes are available, be sure to subscribe to HID Connects. Doing so ensures that you stay connected. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review. You can also subscribe on YouTube. If you're not watching, you're missing out on half the fun, and you can check us out on social. Now, in the spirit of connection, please do send us your questions and topic ideas for future episodes and future seasons. All you have to do is drop me a line at media@hidglobal.com. So, my friends, until next season, I'm kind of sad that it's over. Until next season, thanks again for listening, and may your identities forever be secure.